Welcome back to An Athlete's Journey. I'm your host, Travis Reed, and today I got a special guest, somebody who I've been knowing since, I don't know, about 10 years old, 11 years old, something like that, something ridiculous. Really good dude, I want to say one of those California 97 legends. 97 was, like I said, the greatest class in California history. He is one of the stars of that class. Like I said, he was one of those. He was Lonzo Ball before Lonzo Ball. Like a 6'5" point guard, long, lanky. You know what I'm saying? And he was like that way back when I met him when he was like 11 years old. So
Right.
I'm like, is this the center playing point guard? Long.
That's that's what I said about you.
Yeah, exactly. We
I
both was the
remember
big guys playing point guard on our teams.
I remember when Dino started playing with us because Dino Tanner, who went on to do great things at Oregon State. When he grew up playing with you guys at
hmm
Y, right?
Boys and
And
Girls Club.
Boys and Girls Club,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Boys
yeah.
and Girls Club, yeah, Vermont. And he started playing with us at Jesse Owens Park, and we played against you guys, and he was like, "Yeah, you matched up against Travis." I'm like, "Who is Travis?" Well, you'll see. Travis is a point guard too. And I'm looking down and I'm like, ain't no way I gotta guard this dude. This dude is 12, 11 years old, 6 feet, 215 pounds. I'm like, damn. So it was like guarding you, you throw that body on me, ain't nothing I can do. I go by you, it's like back and forth. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yep,
man.
yep, yep,
I
yep.
mean, the best thing your dad ever did, man, was put the ball in your hands at a young age. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
no, definitely.
For sure.
He was he wanted to me like to be that guy who can kind of do all the things. And it helped me throughout my career, all the way to the pros. So
Right.
um, but enough about me. Let's get into you, dog. Like I
Yeah.
said, how did your basketball journey start?
Man, I started playing at Jesse Owens Park in South Central LA at the age of, I want to say I started like 7 years old. My cousin, who's kind of more, everybody thought he was my uncle, but he was actually my cousin. He's older than me, and he got me playing sports at the park. He was he worked at the park. He was a park and rec staff, LA County Park and Rec staff, and he got me into soccer, played t-ball, and then I started playing basketball on the small courts
Mm-hmm,
at about
mm-hmm.
7 years old.
Okay.
And
Were you interested? I was gonna say, were you interested in other sports besides that?
when I look back, he had me playing everything, but I loved basketball. I remember after that first year, I mean, of course, I was terrible. I didn't know anything about the game, right? But I remember when we had our banquet and I thought that it was over, that I couldn't play no more.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I remember driving home with my dad and I was crying. He was like, "What you crying for?" I was like, "Because I still want to play." He was like, "Oh, no, that's just the season is over." I was like, "You got summertime?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I fell in love with the game, I think at 7 years old.
Okay.
Uh,
Wow. Okay.
mhm.
Now, obviously, growing up, AAU was kind of becoming a thing, a big thing, at our age group. Uh, I know, like when I met you, obviously, I was playing with my dad's team with the club, what we were just talking about, and you was with, Jesse Owens Park. Did you grow up playing with any other teams besides the Jesse Owens Park team? By
Man,
the way, the
that's
Jesse Owens Park team was really nice. They had
yeah, yeah.
a
I
real good
mean, yeah, I
backcourt with
mean,
you and Dino.
yeah. To give you like a history on my team. So with me, it was with my cousin who was my coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't pretty much going anywhere else to play. Um, we did a lot of, even though we were a park all-star team, we still did a lot of AAU events throughout LA. We just didn't have the sponsorships and stuff like that. But I mean, we definitely had the talent. Um, it's so funny, man. I don't want to get off topic, but last night when I was at the game, I ran into the former owner of Cal High Sports, who owned the magazine. And he was sitting next to me, and I was like, "Yeah, man, if you go back to the 1992, if you can find that article, my seventh grade team, which was Jesse Owens Park team, we won the Slam and Jam. We went undefeated, and that had ARC with the Collins twins. It had K Swiss with Barron and Bean and
Mm.
Kevin Bradley. Cerritos had Kenny Bruner, RJ with Slam and Jam, and we went through there undefeated. And we literally had dudes that was from the hood. We wore LAPD jerseys, cut off dudes had cut off khakis and LA gear boots, and we ran through that thing.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so yeah, but to say that, I remember one time when I first kind of like when I was on the east side, I was playing basketball at South Park, and I used to go up there and play, and these guys be like, "Man, oh, you think you nice? We gonna put you against our little homie." And I was like, "Who y'all little homie?" Come to find out, it was Baron Davis, who lived right around the corner. And I was like, I had never seen a guard at that age handle the ball like that. Because I
Hmm.
can handle the ball. I never seen nobody really handle the ball
Right,
better
right,
than me at that
right,
age.
right, 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 right,
And
right.
we was going at it. He was like, "Man, you need to come play on my team. Come play on my K-Swiss team." And I didn't know nothing about AAU. And I was like, "Man, I already got a team." And I'm playing at the park. You know what I'm saying? Then when I see him with the fresh uniforms on, the shoes, the bags, and all that. And he's like, "Man, I told you come play with us."
Right,
uh,
right.
but yeah, man, I pretty much stuck with my park team all the way until probably high school.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin, he just kept us together. Dino was probably like Dino Tanner was probably the only one that went off and did other AAU stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I pretty much stuck with my park team up until high school.
Mm-hmm. And where did Dino go? K-Swiss.
He went to K-Swiss. Well, I think first he went to Slam and Jam.
Yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah.
Izzy Washington used to like his mom. You know
Yep,
what I'm
yep,
saying?
yep, yep, yep,
And
yep,
he went over there with Slam and Jam first, and then he went over to K-Swiss.
yep, yep, yep.
Yep.
I remember that because I went to ARC after my pops team, and Dino eventually, like I said, went to K-Swiss, and it was like Dino, Baron, Bean. They had like the Run TMC shit. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It was like them three just little dudes just running around. You know what I'm saying? So they gave us problems.
I think it was like a different time right then because it was more so just focusing on getting better.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
didn't really matter where you was at as long as you when you had the opportunity to go to the different events that
Mm-hmm,
you put on. And
mm-hmm,
every
mm-hmm,
time that we went to events with other AAU teams, we put on, you
mm-hmm,
know.
mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm,
that's kind of like how I built my name and our reputation from going to like these different events throughout LA. And my cousin, he was crazy, man. Like we would go to the bougie AAU events and we
mm-hmm.
would go play at the hood parks. I remember
Yeah.
getting chased out of Manchester Park by the Hoovers. I remember going to Harvard Park, getting chased out of there by the Brims. I remember going to Riley Park, getting chased out of there by the Shotguns. I
Yep,
remember
yep.
going to Athens Park, getting chased out of there. Um, Playing in the Jordan down. So I think that kind of like helped develop the toughness. Because I
Mm-hmm.
ain't gonna lie, we stepped on like, whoa, like what? Because everybody thinking because we were from Jesse Owens Park
Yep,
that we were 9-0, that we were 9-0 Crips. But no, we basketball players. You know what I'm saying? This is the park that we come out of.
yep,
But
yep,
and
yep.
then building all that reputation, going all across the city, and every part of the city, every park. I mean, even Barron started at Bethune Park. That's where I first met Barron. Bethune
Mm-hmm.
Park on the east side. He was playing for a team called New Edition. And
Mm-hmm.
every LA City County Parks and Rec tournament, we would meet up in the championship. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how you get that toughness and that reputation, balling through, different places in LA.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the craziest spot I remember we played at when I was with my dad's team at the club, we played up at the Jim Gillian Park in the jungle. You know what I'm saying? That one
Right,
way in, one way out, man. And
right,
man, because they had a football league up there. We played football, flag football, and basketball up there. So I remember
right,
we was playing, I think we was playing the flag football, man, and one of our dudes like, nigga, this Hoover, da, 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 and they was like, what? I'm gonna go get my cousin. Next, they went from like two dudes to like 20. It was like
right,
my dad was like, get on the bus, get on the van, let's go.
right, right,
And luckily the OG, he talked to the OG, was like, oh yeah, man, it's all good, man. Let him go, man. So
Right.
I just remember that. I was like, man,
Right.
I'm
Right.
like 10, 11 years old, whatever I was,
Exactly.
man. Like,
Grown men like talking about these niggas got to get up out of here.
yeah, I was like, dude was like, man, let them go, man. They play football, man. Or, they play basketball, man. They let them go. He was like,
Yeah.
whoo, God, Lord Jesus. We the Crenshaw, the Crenshaw YMCA as well. I remember that too. Um, that was a good league as well. So I feel you. Hey, yeah, man. Like I just wanted to say, like, like I remember those times, like you said, they brought the dog out in all of us. I feel because it was like,
Because you remember back then it was about having heart. Like,
yep,
we always talked about that word. He got heart, gotta have heart, heart,
yep,
heart.
yep,
You
yep.
know?
No, I agree with you on that, for sure. I think having that heart, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what we grew up on because I felt like it was so many of us that in order to stick out, you had to have that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So all right. Well, you played obviously, you stayed with you stayed down with your cousin. What
And
made
then like
you
the
oh go
only
ahead.
outside other team I played like in my junior high school teams, I went to Crozer and Henry Clay. And at Henry Clay, I won a city championship, junior high school city championship with Dino and Leon Jones.
Okay,
Remember
okay,
Leon
okay.
that played at Fremont, went to Michigan?
Yeah, big tall, light skinned Leon.
Yep, yep. That was our backcourt. Me, Dino, and Leon.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, and we
okay.
won the city championship.
Who beating that team? You know what I'm
Oh, but I
saying?
mean, Horseman had Kenny Bruner. Bret Hart had dudes. Um, that was a tough league, man. Anybody that was around that time had guys. Bret Hart, Henry Clay, Bethune, um, Drew. We used to go Drew junior high school. Everybody had guys, that went on to do something. And either they went to the streets or they played, they kept with it.
No, I
Yeah,
feel you. I feel you on that one, dog. I would
yeah.
say for me, man, it was a situation, man, that, like I went to Catholic school. We won the CYO championship in Catholic school. We had a couple dudes go to Sarah. We played remember Reed from went to Crenshaw, who was at Sarah, then went to Crenshaw, light skinned
Yeah,
Reed.
yeah.
Yeah, he was in the league against us. We had Tony Atkins, who ended up going to Georgia Tech, left-handed dude, played pro ball like 15 years. He was Toby Bailey dad coached him. Uh,
Okay.
so we played them in like the semifinals, and we played them a lot of times. But yeah, like CYO was cool, but like Pops was like, I ain't taking you to John Muir.
Right,
That school will kill you.
right, right. Don
Because
Mir
that
was
was
in
the
our
that was the
league.
closest, yeah, that was the closest junior high to my house.
Okay.
And so he was like, nah, 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 you ain't doing that. So I'm gonna take you up at the Catholic school,
Right.
so but no, so anyway, so you go to Inglewood, which is a prestigious high school, one of the most prestigious high schools in the state of California history. Um, you play with, great players. You go there, Dino's there, but you play with obviously, future NBA great Paul Pierce. Tell me how that experience was.
So originally, man, in the ninth grade, I went to Cleveland first,
Okay,
and
yeah, we're
I
gonna get to that.
played.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I played my JV year there. Um, he didn't move me up in the playoffs like he said. I don't know if he was trying to teach me some kind of moral lesson or what, but didn't move me up in the playoffs. And I was like, man, I'm out of here. And
Right.
went to Inglewood, right where I really should have went with me going to Crozer and me knowing the head coach since I was 8 years old. I should have went with Pat Roy. You know what I'm saying? Get over to Inglewood and it's they're loaded. Back then it was loaded programs, meaning your freshman, sophomore, JV, it was loaded. Like you could have took a JV and competed in varsity in some other areas of California.
hmm hmm
So went there. It was a humbling experience because in the 10th grade, I thought I was going to be on varsity full time, but I was in between varsity and JV um, my sophomore year. Half of the season I was on JV, half I was on varsity, went back down and then came back up for the playoffs. And it was I think that was one of the best things that probably ever happened to me as a basketball player. It hurt my ego at first, but I needed development and I needed to be on the floor. And, with Inglewood being loaded at the time, I could have been on varsity, but I would have been sitting at the end of the bench. And what good is that, right? Young players need to be on the floor. And I go to JV and I play, 40 minutes a game. And it's so funny. Paul Pierce had cracked a joke one time because we had another guard who was name was Ricky, and Ricky played varsity the year before, but for disciplinary reasons he got moved down. And Paul gonna come in and say, "David Rick, the coldest JV backcourt in the nation."
That's funny,
So,
you know.
but anyway, I get moved up, and I seen one of the most legendary games in the 10th grade when Paul against versus Dominguez, when Paul went off at Compton College, and man, all of Compton, all them gangsters was sitting behind our bench, going off on us, and Paul went off with Roy Williams sitting in the stands, and I was like, "Ooh, okay, this is what the runs is about right here." You know,
Hmm.
this is the
Hmm.
runs. And
I
so
got you.
that next year, of course, I'm on varsity starting. And then I think we had probably like one of the best backcourts in not only the state but in the country. We had me, Jason Hart had transferred over from Westchester, and Dino Tanner.
Right. Well, I remember that. Like I said, I used to watch. I watched y'all. I was a hoop head, so I was watching all dudes. You know what I'm saying? As far as like talent. As far as what was next. Me and Pops, we would go to all the games. We was there when Inglewood played Bakersfield when Bakersfield had J.R. Henderson, and like he was the next great big man going to UCLA, but he was like a big man playing like the point guard spot. He was like 6'9", but he could handle,
Yeah,
shoot, all that. Um, and I was people don't remember that I was on the Crenshaw team that played Cleveland the first game of the season when you was on JV.
yeah.
Um, and I remember Cleveland was, a great school and great team. But Crenshaw, and I always tell everybody this, is I think that team was probably the best California team I ever saw in California history, in my time.
Yeah,
I never
that was a crazy. That team was crazy. It wasn't.
crazy. We had, Tremaine Folks, Chris Johnson, Tank Davis, Tommy Davis. Reggie McFerrin, Ronnie Arch, God rest his soul.
Yep.
So it was
Y'all had a
stupid.
7 footer. Y'all had a 7 footer.
Yeah, Leon, big Leon. We had the team was stupid. You know what I'm saying? As far as like talent, and I just like I said, I remember that too. But okay, you obviously going to Cleveland and leaving Cleveland, and then going to Inglewood and playing at Inglewood. What would you say your most memorable moment was in high school?
Man, but Eaglewood High School, man, it was so much fun. I mean, one of the things about it was because it was an environment that guys came to get better. For the most part, guys were coming to Inglewood to go Division 1, you know. And when Paul and those guys won CIF which was my freshman year that I had checked in, it was different around there, meaning every school in the country was stopping by there on a daily basis.
Mm.
To be honest, I had my JV game against Westchester. I had 30, and University of Kansas was there, and who was the associate head coach at the time. Um, Dang, it's gonna slip my tongue. He was associate head coach, Steve Robinson, and he ended
Okay,
up getting a
okay,
job
okay.
at the University of Tulsa. He started recruiting me from that game that he saw me play on JV at Westchester.
Hmm.
And that's he was at Kansas. I started getting letters from Kansas while I was on JV in the 10th grade.
Okay,
And
okay.
and then that next year, I think that next year, but for me, that next year was the most memorable. We made it top 25 in the country. We won 30 games, and we too bad. I mean, we lost 5 games. One like we just didn't show up one game to like a bunk school, took it for granted, but we lost 4 times to Dominguez. And
Damn.
shit, that shit would hurt it the most, you know what I'm saying? But you know, I played in the pond. I was there twice. Every, um, should we what? I mean, 30 games. I mean, to win 30 games at any, high school or college
No, no,
level,
no.
that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
an amazing thing, you know.
No, it
But
is.
then, that year is when I started to really start to build a name for myself, like on the circuit, right? Meaning with all the publications and all that kind of stuff. I had a good junior year. I mean, I had 2 gunners on the side of me, you know what I'm saying? But I was about winning, I was
Right.
about winning, and that's when I started, like my junior year, my recruiting started to pick up because of that kind of year we had. And we were always in the championship games. We were always in the runs, So
Hmm,
that
hmm.
probably was the most memorable, going to CIF twice and winning 30 games and you know, out there with the guys every day. Back then for me it wasn't about how many points I scored, and then it was about everybody about winning. I think one thing that I liked about my career is that nobody can ever say that any team that I've been on, I've always impacted winning, you know, um, from a little kid. I'm always going to be on the floor or doing something that's going to help my team win. And that's why I started every place that I've been for the most part. Yeah.
I got you. So, winning 30 games your junior year, obviously senior year, you have a great year. You go back to the CIF championship again. Um,
I think I don't want to cut you off, but I think one of the biggest things that I realized was after my junior year,
mhm.
that summer.
Okay.
That summer was very important.
Hmm.
And I had made some like grown man decisions at 17 years old where like my family wanted me to get a summer job and all that kind of stuff. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I don't have the clothes. I don't have the shoes. I don't have no money, but I'm going to focus. Every single day I got up and went to that gym. Every
Hmm.
single day, whether it was Inglewood High School, Jesse Owens Park, I was doing something every single day that summer to prepare myself. So when I went to any of the camps, I was on. And I had built my name up to where I was talking to you about it. It was I had built like where I was most top 3 improved player. It was me, you, and Mike McDonald. It was the
Hmm.
3 guys who had did the most for themselves in California that year. So
Hmm. Hmm.
that junior year, that summer probably was the most important year in my development because it's
Hmm.
like I got to get out the ghetto. I got I got wait, I got less than 12 months that's gonna determine the rest of my life.
True.
I was are intelligent enough and articulate enough at 16, turning 17 years old that this is it.
Hmm. Hmm.
I got
Hmm.
to get on somebody college campus somewhere.
I feel you, man. I feel
Yeah,
you. I feel you. No,
yeah,
that was I remember that too, because I was like by then you was about 6'5", and like I
yeah,
said, you was Lonzo Ball before Lonzo Ball.
yeah,
You was running the point. Dino was like, nah, I'm gonna stick me at the two. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Because I want to shoot that thing.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And so I thought that you guys, were just a tremendous backcourt, probably one of the best in the state, along with Bean and Al Fox. You know,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know what I'm saying? Maybe a little bit. I mean, obviously Barron was here. Cash Warren wasn't there, but they was a good backcourt together. But I would say y'all, what I'm saying? I remember y'all three, those three, it was like the top backcourts. Maybe y'all was the top backcourt overall as far as
yeah.
talent in the state. Um, overall, I think. And so yeah, I just remember, like I said, y'all were lethal. Y'all just was needed a big man. That's all y'all needed. Y'all didn't really have a big man, but it was
We didn't
like
have a
y'all was
big man.
lethal.
Yeah,
Y'all
we
was
didn't have a
lethal
big
at the
man.
guards. All the guards.
Man,
Y'all was nice.
it's one of the crazy things. Like too many people don't know is so like after that summer, right? You know, we do because I end up going to play for the Pumps for
Mm-hmm.
AAU.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know, we do the Vegas thing, we do all that, we do the best in the West thing and all that. And I'm having a great, I had a great summer. I couldn't ask for anything better. So when we go into our senior year, I'm ready. Like I'm physically, mentally ready. You know, my body is conditioned. And like the first game of the season, the Best of West tournament, I was going up for a layup and I came down and I like messed my wrist up. So I was out. I was out for like 2, 3 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then I come back um first like regular season game against Morningside. Dude, I'm on a fast break. Toriano, if you ever see this, I'm on a fast break, pushed me out the air and I came down, messed my fell back and re-injured that wrist. So I was going through like a sort of like a tough time because this is when everybody back then recruiting kind of worked out differently, right? When they see you in the summer, everybody came out to the preseason tournaments and
Yeah.
they came
Yeah.
out a little
Yeah.
bit throughout the year. And I'm getting recruited. I'm getting recruited, right? In schools. It's the early, I go on 2 early visits. I go to Long Beach State and I go to UC Irvine.
Right.
And like mentally, I'm like, I'm not there, right? Because I'm like, okay, I worked this hard to have this good senior year, and I'm sitting out like these first parts of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember um I always tell this story, man, and this is always a tough story to tell, right? People don't know this. Where I wanted to go to, I wanted to go to University of Tulsa, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the day the head coach came to see me work out, right? He watched me the whole summer. I let a temporary situation mess up. A, you know what they say when you in your feelings temporarily, it can mess up something larger, right? One of the assistant coaches had told us, well, Coach Roy had told me, he said, I want y'all to go to the track and run a mile. I'm like, okay, cool. When the assistant coach come, he said, no, y'all gonna run 2 miles. Well, I'm arguing back and forth with him. I'm like, well, coach just told me to run a mile.
Right.
So I'm arguing with him. The head coach and the assistant coach is sitting at the top of the stand. Not only is this day they come to watch me work out, this is the day of my home visit.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay.
So I'm arguing
So
with the assistant coach. He going back. I'm the last one on the track. I'm the last one on the track.
our mindsets, we be like, all right, I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna run slow as hell.
That childish, immature. You know what I'm saying? Childish, immature. And when the dude pulled up at my grandmother's house, the head coach pulled up at my grandmother's house, and he straight up said, I didn't appreciate that shit I saw on the track today. So I started, Coach, I'm sorry, Coach. I had some chili cheese fries at lunch. I wasn't feeling good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Forget that. That's not my work ethic. My work ethic is better than that. And so they you know, it was so crazy. So they stayed in there. They were recruiting a couple other guys from LA. They
Hmm.
end up signing a local kid from Tulsa. So I understood that. But what happened is people don't know. Even around that time, man, I had a cousin that was living out here from LA. I mean, from he was staying with us. He from Louisiana. He came out here and he got attracted to the LA lifestyle like real fast. He was selling dope, and we had a home invasion. And man, when we had that home invasion, like we almost could have died in that home invasion, right? And what happened was around this time, that's when the schools could just send a letter of intent to you. You could just have a bunch of letter of intents, and you know what I'm saying, you could sign one.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember just saying, like, I gotta get out of here. Like, I gotta
Hmm.
get out of here. And I had already took my official visit to Long Beach State, and I love Long Beach. You know, Long Beach had pros. Long Beach had a new arena, a
Yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
arena. The campus, they love basketball. They support low key. They was NIL before NIL was even a thing back then. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right.
you know, black coach, you know, black
Hmm.
coaching staff, Coach Vaughn recruited the shit out of me. You know what I'm saying? He was everywhere I was. He would come up to Inglewood High School and kick it with me and everything. and I just signed it. And I remember going back to school the next day, and Pat said, "What the fuck did you do that for?" He was like,
Right.
"Dude, you had so many schools, which I didn't know." He's like,
Yeah,
"Man,
of
you had
course.
so many schools that was looking at you and recruiting you and stuff that was lined up." He's like, "Did you know Wisconsin called?" I was like, "No." Like he was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "It is what it is." You know what I'm saying? So I mean, but I mean, I was able to come back, came back, start playing well throughout
Mm-hmm.
that senior year.
Right.
Came back and twisted my ankle again at Santa Monica, and then came back and finished out the season. So but I mean, that my senior year was tough because it was inconsistent with being on the floor. But hey, I mean, the work is to work to get a scholarship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
back then
Mm-hmm.
for us, man, it was go D1, go D1, go D1. Like these kids talk about, like they have a lot of options nowadays. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the basketball landscape and the community was totally different. Like we were really working to get out of the community that we were from. For me, I didn't really have nobody saying, "Man, you 6'5", you can handle, you can do this, man, you could be a pro." I didn't really have nobody saying that.
Right, right,
But
right,
I
right.
heard people saying, "Man, you need to get a scholarship, you need to get D1 so you can get out of here." You know what I'm saying? So
No, no, I feel you. I feel you. Now, you end up going to, was Long Beach your first school? It was your first school, right?
yeah,
So you
Long
end
Beach
up
was
going
my
on.
first school. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you end up going to Long Beach, signing 11 to Long Beach. What do you remember about your first year in college, and what was the hardest thing, like the biggest, the biggest thing from high school to college? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, from your first year.
Trav, it's crazy, man, because like going in, because I had to go to Summer Bridge
Mm-hmm.
at Long Beach State. So I don't really know what Summer Bridge is, but that's kind of like if you kind of like were a borderline high school student, you had to go in early to get prerequisites and prove that you could kind of be on the college level or stuff like that. So I was
Right.
on campus that summer before my freshman year. So I was
Okay.
working out
Okay.
every day. I was lifting every day. I was going against guys, the older guys every day. And man, I came out with a bang. Against like back then you would play like those against those pro teams like for
Yeah.
free.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You'll get a couple exhibition games.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And shoot, my first exhibition game, I came out with 28. Next game, I came out with 22. And I was like, this easy. You know? I was like, this is easy. The conditioning, like it was different because it was more of a structured, regimented schedule in college.
Yep.
Get up, eat, class, weights, conditioning, individuals, that kind of stuff. But Pat Roy ran the shit out of us. So the conditioning wasn't nothing when I got to college.
Right.
And like I said, I came out with a bang.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I came out I started like the first 14, 15 games of the season. I was leading the team in scoring, averaging 14 a game, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I started playing like a freshman, inconsistent up and down, like I said, but nobody told me that I like once again, like I didn't have nobody saying like that's good for a freshman.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
know what
Right.
I'm
Right. Right.
saying? I'm listening to the homies like, oh nigga, you need to be, oh, this, that. I didn't know that that was good for a freshman. And we had a 7-footer that was sitting out there. He was sitting out the first semester, and Andy Betts. He ended up getting drafted by
Yeah, I
Charlotte.
remember Big 7 Foot Bets. I
Yeah,
remember him. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
knew I was gonna go to that bench after he came. I mean, he averaged 20 and 10. I mean, it was him and Michael Olowokandi who was the two guys in the Big West at that conference at that
Yeah.
time. But yeah, I think it was more of a regimented schedule, and more professional, right? About
Mm-hmm.
how you carry yourself,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
coming from
Mm-hmm.
South Central, ain't nobody gonna tell me, especially the older guys, you ain't gonna tell me to do nothing and you grab those bags. Nigga, I ain't grabbing nothing. You gonna grab them bags, nigga. All right, I'm gonna grab the bag. Stuff like that.
Right.
Basically, understanding, everything is a order. You know what I'm saying? Timing. You
Hmm.
know, following the older guys. Listen to the older guys. They've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Don't think that you don't think you know everything. You know it all because you don't.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
know it all. I thought I did, but I didn't though.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Right. 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 Right.
Yeah.
No. No. I got you. I would say, you're at Long Beach State. You're killing as a freshman, 28 and 22 in the exhibition games, leading the team in scoring. You know what I'm saying? As a freshman, that don't really be happening too much unless you one of them one and done type of freshman. Um, so in college, what would you say your biggest triumph was, or and your biggest failure?
Man, my biggest triumph was because, man, my college journey went to three different places.
Hmm.
Um,
We're gonna go back to
yeah.
that, but I just want to know
So I
what
mean, if
those
you
three.
ask me what it was at Long Beach, my biggest triumph at Long Beach was one of the tournaments I made all tournament, Florida National Tournament. I made all tournament. Um, I had a big game in the regular season against Cal Poly San Luis Obispo where I had like 26. I had like seven threes. Um, actually being beating USC. I started the whole game at the one, beat USC at home on our floor. Um, getting my poster there. They started like you remember those posters?
Yeah, yeah,
Put my
yeah,
face on the
yeah.
poster because that means that you was one of those guys. And you know, just getting better, man. Like I didn't travel. When I look back and I think back, I didn't know who I was and what I had as a player. I
Right.
remember being in practice one day, and at the time, Seattle Supersonic scout Tim Gergerich, everybody knows he was in practice. He was there looking at our big guy. And he called me out of practice one day, and he grabbed my arm and grabbed this. He was like, "Man, you don't know, man. You could be a pro." I was like, "Okay." He's like, "No, man, you could be Gary Payton." I was like, "Oh, for real?"
I
Okay,
feel you.
like you don't believe. He's like, "Man, I want you to come out in Vegas and work out with me in the summer." Me not knowing, me being from South Africa, me not knowing is that's the epicenter of ball in Vegas at that time in the summer. They only invited you out there if you was one of those guys, and they seen you to have that kind of potential to get to the next level. But me not knowing, me not having no mentor in the game at the time, I'm like, okay, this white guy want me to come out to Vegas and come play ball in the summer. Not knowing that stuff.
Right, 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 right,
Yeah.
right. Now I got you. Now, what would you say? Obviously, you have to leave. We'll go back to that. So, what would you left Long Beach State,
Yeah.
and then what happened after that?
After that, it kind of went downwards, right? I
Okay.
left Long Beach State, transferred over to San Jose State, thinking that I wanted to go to a bigger school, bigger conference. Now,
Hmm.
I did go to a bigger conference, but I went to a worse school in San Jose State at the time, and I redshirted. And but I really liked the coaching staff, though. That was there. The head coach was a guy named Phil Johnson. He just came over from Arizona. That was his
Hmm.
first year, and he had coached all those guards that were Arizona. Mike Bibby, Michael Dickerson, Jason Terry, and all that. And he was like, "Man, you got that kind of ability." And I had set out that year and got better. Than the year that we were getting ready to, the year I got ready to eligible to play, he ended up leaving and getting the assistant coaching job with the Bulls. And we were
Hmm.
stuck with this guy who was like, he had no business coaching young men. I'm gonna be real. I'll get to that story later, but he had no business coaching young men, especially not young black men from the inner city.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
um, if we speaking to young athletes, you have no idea of the culture that it was back then, as opposed to what it is that you have now,
Hmm.
and the options and the opportunity that you have right now, because these dudes was like dictator. They thought like slave owners. A lot of them was back then, at least how they acted.
Right.
Yeah.
No, no,
and,
right, right.
and knowing a lot of these guys, if you send them back home, they don't really have no options when they go back home. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
Yep.
Yeah, I dealt with a guy who, but once again, I still started there. You know what I'm saying? And I had an impact on winning there. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I mean that they hadn't. We had won, I think, 16 games. They hadn't won that many games in like 7, 8 years. You know, got biggest game there against Fresno State. Had 18 against Fresno State. They had 4 pros on that team that year. They were top 25 team in the country. You
Mm-hmm.
know, had
Mm-hmm.
some big games, but I think we probably averaged 48 points for the season. Like, how many big games can you have when you average 48 points? You know what I'm saying? He
Yep.
ran a real slow offense. And shoot, I mean, if you average 7, 8 points, you was one of the lead scorers on that team. You know what I'm saying?
No, I
Yeah,
got you. I got you.
yeah.
I got you. Well, um, what would you say like your biggest lesson you learned in college?
Nobody owes you nothing. I think one of the things, like from a basketball standpoint, is that when we're like we talked about, when we started this conversation, we talked about 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, right?
Yeah, yeah,
We're good. More than likely, if we win Division 1, we were always better than most people around us. People catered to us, you know. And when you get to college, it kind of starts all over again. No matter
yep.
if you were a McDonald's All American or whatever, it kind of starts all over again. And you have to prove yourself all over again. So you
True.
have to come to work every day. And that I didn't understand that this was a business. It's like a real business. Like, and it's a level of professionalism that you have to have and a level of approach that you have to have on a daily basis,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my biggest thing was college was that nobody owes you nothing and you have to go and take what it is that you want for yourself.